Hey everyone, I'm Ashlee Banks, and you're going to learn more about me right here on the Audio Infusion Green Room Sessions. Who is Ashlee Banks? That's such a peculiar question. I would have to say I'm somebody who's always evolving. I'm someone who loves the Lord and tries to align my life with His will. And whatever He's purposed me to do, that's what I try to follow. I'm someone who wants to learn. You know, they tell us we're supposed to be learning something new every day, and I strive to achieve that. I'm also someone who loves to explore. I don't like to be stuck in one place. And so I'm from Maryland. I grew up in between Baltimore County and Howard County. I now live in Baltimore City and I work in Washington, D.C., but there's a part of me that wants to know what it's like to live in a different country every year. I got a taste of that when I studied abroad in, I believe it was 2012, I studied abroad in London, England. And I loved the ability to be able to be in another country, learning a new culture, learning new cuisine and how different people communicate and go about life. And that sparked my interest and wanting to just explore the world and make connections with people that didn't come from the same background as me. But wrapping it up, I am just someone who tries to live their life to the fullest every day, because you never know when you're going to take your last breath. How did I get started working at WEAA? Well, I was a freshman at Morgan State University, a very ambitious freshman at Morgan State, and I knew that going to an HBCU, I would have to compete not with the people that I was attending school with, but people at the surrounding universities like Towson University and University of Maryland, because I knew they had better journalism programs at the time. And so I wanted to make sure that I had the accomplishments that would stack up against them. And so I tried to participate in the volunteer program at WEAA. However, for some reason, at the time that I was trying to join, there was no longer a volunteer program. And so I had a connection with Derek Fletcher, who works for Gospel Grace on Sundays, and I connected with him, and he basically offered me a position to intern with him. And I started off working the soundboard, engineering the soundboard. At first I had no idea what I was doing, but Derek was patient with me and he showed me the ropes. And I remember in the beginning I explained to Derek that I wanted to be on air. Not necessarily at the radio, but just in general. That was the career path that I wanted for myself. I wanted to be on television as a journalist. And so Derek kept telling me the first few weeks that I was working that I wasn't ready to be on air. And at first I'm just like, what does he mean I'm not ready? But after watching him do his thing, I was like, he's absolutely right. I'm not ready. And that was probably some of the best advice he could have given me at the time. And so he just helped me to hone my skills of engineering the soundboard. He taught me how to line up a show. He taught me how to engage with the listeners, and in a matter of months he had me on air filling in for him, filling in during the holidays, you know, Thanksgiving and Christmas, when it was Gospel Grace's turn to host shows. And that helped me to build my confidence. It helped me to build skills that I still use to this day. So I interned with Gospel Grace for the 4 years that I was attending Morgan State University, and I do recall one specific time, because I'll be honest, it was very hard getting up to come to my internship every Sunday, because Derek would have me come at like 5 in the morning. And as a college student who didn't live too far, I lived in the Harper Tubman dorm, which is not far at all from the communications building. And I had Derek pick me up because he just felt like safety. Safety was his major concern. And of course, he's like, I need to come pick you up to make sure you get to the studio safely and on time. And so what Derek would do every morning, he would give me a courtesy call, letting me know that he's on his way. I do remember this happened several times where Derek would call me, I would answer, he'd be on his way and I'd fall back to sleep and I would wake up to so many missed calls. And finally I would come out, Derek would be there. He was a patient guy, he'd wait for me. And then he took me to the studio and we'd prepare for the morning. Mind you, I was tired. I probably spent all night out with friends and I'm trying to get my act together because we have to put on this show, and Derek's show is one of the popular shows on Gospel Grace, and so you have to come correct when you're dealing with Derek. He's a perfectionist and he does his job really well. And so we would see the Audio Infusion people, I forgot to mention that, we would see the Audio Infusion team when we would show up to the studio, and they were always great, always great. I mean, they were there from, I believe it was 12 to 5, I want to say. They had a pretty long shift, but they were always greeting us with smiles no matter how late or early it was in the morning, and we would have that transition to Gospel Grace. But it was a good time. I kind of miss those times. They were simpler times pre-COVID. But they were, I want to say they were character building times for sure. Learning that no matter how tired you are, no matter what's going on, you still have to show up for the position that you agreed to partake in. So after I graduated from Morgan, I was hired at WEAA to be an on-air morning news host. And so I had to be in the studio at 5 in the morning. At the time, I wasn't necessarily a morning person. And I had a habit of staying up really late because obviously I'm no longer in school. I like hanging out with friends and family and just kind of living my life. And so I know there would be moments where I'd probably go to bed around 2 a.m. and then have to roll out of bed a couple hours later. Every morning I would drive to Dunkin' Donuts, that's not too far from Morgan State University, get a big cup of coffee and drink that throughout the day just to keep me awake. But I really had a great time being on air because it was something that I absolutely love. It's a passion of mine. It's the reason why I went to Morgan State University. It's the reason why I went to school. And so I really enjoyed the time that I had as an on-air personality here at WEAA. In 2012, Malika Clements and Malika, by the way, she was an intern for Audio Infusion while I was an intern for Gospel Grace at WEAA. And we decided we wanted to leave the country. We wanted to do something exciting. And so we embarked on a study abroad trip to London, England. We got our parents on board. It was great. So everything was paid for and we were on our way. We get to London, England, and we're just so excited to be there. We literally keep repeating to ourselves every 2 seconds, we are literally in London, England, while like just looking around. We were just so amazed that we were finally out of the States and in another country for the semester. And I remember us walking through Hyde Park, just she and I, walking through Hyde Park. We were saying absolutely nothing to each other, just taking in the atmosphere. And before you know it, there's this Caucasian Brit on a bicycle riding past us, and he shouts out the N-word. And so Malika and I, for a few seconds, are just even more silent, and we kind of just stop walking, and we look at ourselves and we're like, did he just call us the N-word? We're like, yeah, he did. And we kind of start laughing because we just thought it was ridiculous. We weren't saying anything, doing anything, not saying that if you do or say anything, it warrants being called that. It just was so random. It made absolutely no sense. But of course, realizing that we are in Britain, the place where a lot of discrimination originated from, it made sense. And so, but Malika and I decided we were in a place that we wanted to be. We were in a place where we could explore, where we could get to know ourselves better, where we could learn more about the world. And so we decided to dismiss that situation. Of course, we remember it and probably will remember it for the rest of our lives. But it was one of those moments where it's like, okay, that person has a problem. We don't. And we're going to continue living our best lives. But that was definitely something to remember.
Bienvenue. It's moi, Jada Givenchy, here with the audio infusion. And if you like what you just saw, please click the subscribe button down below and you'll get notifications on our next coming videos. Hope to see you soon. Until next time, au revoir.